Yeah. Okay, we only just started. We only just started, so we're just going through the conflict of interest at the moment.
Thanks, Dave. Sorry I'm late. I had trouble with my computer logging on. I sent you all a text. Oh, you haven't done apologies yet, but Hinga won't be here today.
Yes, Jeff was just telling us.
Okay, cool.
Oh, yes, I see. I just got a kit from you. Sorry, text. Okay, so we've got we're just going through the conflicts of interest kit. It looks like you're muted. You're back there, yep.
Yeah, sorry. No, I've got nothing to declare. Thanks, Dave.
Okay, and have we got anybody? I don't think we've got anybody in the public forum part of things. No,
I haven't been told of anybody wanting to speak.
Okay. Now, we need confirmation of the minutes from the last meeting. Now, I wasn't there, so I can't confirm the yeas and nays. I've read through them.
I would move that they be confirmed.
All right, thank you, guys. And then now it's up to me, the chairman's report. Right. A little bit of a spiel here, but here we go. As we move forward in a post-COVID and lockdown world, we see the world has become a much different place with rapidly rising inflation, which is actually more than Reserve Bank forecasts, fuel prices and food and fuel prices jumping up and up, supply chain issues, predicted power and price increases, and the possibility of a major war in Europe eventuating. The reality is food shortages are coming, as per a news item on TV3 this morning, with many economists predicting a recession happening within a year and some talking a depression like the world has never known. With the supply chain issues leading to job losses, all in all, it's not a good economic future for the world. It's been predicted. We here in Kawhia are also facing rate increases, 10% this year, if I'm correct, and 8% the following. So I believe the fact that now that meters are installed for the water will soon be billed for that amount as well. As elected members of our community, I'm asking you to support me, and it's a bugger, I think it's not here, but I'll talk to him, to support me in calling for a review or halt to the forecast spending of the current 10-year plan, which to me is flawed, as there was almost no input from 75% of our ratepayers, being the batch owners. I would like a call to stop to the proposed $12 million spend quoted in long-term plan discussion documents, as I see this expenditure and the associated rate increases as being a worrisome burden to some of and many of our residents and ratepayers. With that being said, I'm also offering my resignation as a board member at the end of this term, as I'll become more involved with supporting my family through these coming troubled times. Thank you. I don't know if you will have a little discussion on that when we come to our open time. And from there, we'll move on to item 78. Oh, sorry, someone would like to move that my chairman's report be accepted.
I'll move that.
Someone want to second it? No, thank you again, Jeff. All right. Now, from there, we move on to item 78, which is funding for the entrance sign restoration. That's you, Andrew.
Oh, sorry, yes. So Nadia's here to speak to that. It's her project. So, yeah.
Hi, Nadia.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you for having me. So I don't really have anything else to add to the report. I'll just highlight perhaps the executive summary. There has been discussion amongst your board before around supporting this financially, but you haven't yet received a report with a recommendation in which to do that officially. So there are three financial aspects that make up the restoration. That's the disassembling it, moving it, bringing it back and reassembling it. Then there's the painting of the steel frame, and then there's the remaking of the sign that has the wording on it in something a little bit more sustainable than the plyboard. So that's using RMC board. The total cost of that restoration could be up to $5,219. And I say up to because the use of a HIAB may or may not be necessary at this stage, and the company that will be disassembling it and moving it will know when the time comes, whether that will be a cost or not. So for now, we've added that in there. The Kāwhia Community Board has an annual budget of 5,000 in your sundry grant, and you currently have 3,125 remaining, either unspent or not earmarked. So the board could resolve in this meeting to use the remaining of that funding, the 3,125, which at the end of June would dissolve anyway. And council staff have agreed to pay the remaining $2,094 from one of our own budgets. Happy to take any questions.
All right, no, that sounds great, Nadia. Thank you. Nobody got any?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, can I just say, when I was talking with Hinga earlier, she indicated her that she would support the recommendation if that's if it came to a vote. Yep.
Okay. Well,
Chair, just thank you, Nadia, for your report. That was great. The summary was perfect. You didn't need a lot of discussion on that. Everything was answered for us. So thank you.
Thank you.
all right. Well, I'd like to move a motion that we accept the report and move ahead with Nadia's recommendations.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Thank you again, Nadia. Great stuff. Okay. That's really all we've got on our agenda as such, and it's just things that we may like to discuss and think about. So I'll start with you, Ken. Is there anything you'd like to?
Yeah, well, I simply endorse your comments. I look around town on a regular basis, and it's relatively quite dead, really. If you go into town during the day, there's rarely people outside the Rusty or even inside it having coffee or lunch. The bakery, well, certainly the cakes and roast area of the bakery is now closed every Monday, and they're tending to close quite early at night. You can get a roast dinner, but you've got to be there by about 4:30 to get it. And you know, the activities in other sectors, the sports club, the golf club, the activity level is extremely low, and I have no doubt that's due, at least to some extent, by the simple increased costs that we've got to operate. Much higher cost of living, much higher fuel costs, and the current proposed rate increase means all of these people who are struggling to get by anyway will now need to find another $50 a week. I don't know where they're going to get it from. It's not going to help our town or community at all.
Right. I agree. Thank you very much, Ken. As we come down around, I'll go with you next, Jeff, please.
Thank you. Yeah, we with our traffic calming measures that we've got that got put in a month or so ago, we had a little bit of an issue with people using all sorts of methods to avoid it. So I got hold of Andreas late last week, and within a week they'd resolved the issue, and there's a nice set of gates have gone up to prevent anyone from avoiding the traffic bump by driving on people's grass verges and making a hell of a mess. I was there on Monday and I saw the rubbish truck go one wheel off the speed bump to avoid it and made a hell of a mess. So I put some rocks up to stop that from happening again. And yesterday Andreas and Mark sent their team out and yeah, problem solved. So thank you very much. If I could officially record that, it's slowing everyone down. No, too. Just with our stock issue, we had an incident reported to me Monday, May the 9th, where it was we had calves versus stock on the Saturday. I was told on the Monday morning that it was a horse, so I got a hold of Hinga, and she followed the protocol that we've established, and she got hold of James investigated, and came back that that was unidentified stock. The guy that hit the unidentified stock wasn't too sure whether it was a horse or a cow, and that was basically the end of that matter. So at least we had an early try out of the system, but at this stage, and it looks like it's unresolved on what the guy from Ōtorohanga actually hit on the Saturday night.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you, Jeff. It's all good. Kit, please.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Not a lot to report. It's been a pretty quiet sort of a month. We had a council meeting earlier in the month, and there was nothing really that sort of came out of that I need to sort of talk about with the board. But I do want to just perhaps correct a couple of things. There seems to be a misconception around town that the water meters that have gone and are being placed there in order to start charging people by water meter for water. And I just want to give you an assurance that that is not what council was intending to do. That the meters have been put there in order to identify where all of the leaks have been occurring, and so far they've discovered 9. One of which was an absolute major, but wasn't visible from the street, and it was losing something like 800,000 litres a month, I think was the figure that was quoted. So that's in the process of being repaired. So I just wanted to perhaps reassure people that the water meters that have gone in, there's no nefarious purpose for those other than to identify water leaks. The second thing is, yes, you made a very valid comment about increasing costs and how people have been affected over the last couple of years, in particular with COVID and other things that have been happening internationally, which are affecting us. And I'm acutely aware, Dave, as no doubt you are, how it's affecting the building industry in particular. The construction firms seem to be the ones that are going under. They do well in a boom, and they get hit when it's not so flash. So there are those sorts of issues. But I just wanted to say too that the rate increase that you mentioned, it started off, and I need to go back a little bit here. The initial cut for the annual plan for next year, 22-23, showed a 13% increase out there. And we got that down to 10. And I argued with the council quite vigorously that that was totally unacceptable. And they actually went back again and had another crack at it. And we've got it down to what the long-term forecast was or is at 7.5. Now, at the stage, if there is to be any changes to that, it's getting pretty late in the piece to make changes, I have to say. But if you feel strongly enough about it, I think it needs to be a recommendation from the board that requesting council go back and have another look at things, particularly in relation to Kawhia. But I think also as part of that, you need to perhaps give an indication as to what you would like to see not happen out here, which are adding to those costs. And one of the biggies, which you may or may not be aware, is that there is quite an extensive program for an upgrade of the water reticulation network in Kawhia, some of which is 50 or 60 years old or more, and we're not exactly sure what we're going to find when we start digging up those pipes as to whether some of them are asbestos or not. So there's a whole host of issues around that increase, Dave, and I appreciate where you're coming from, but I think probably if the board is of a mind to go back to the council and ask them to reconsider, it needs to perhaps come up with some suggestions as to where they think the cuts could be made to assist them with that. So other than that, Dave, I haven't got too much more to add. Yeah, so I'm happy to answer any questions if I can. So I'll leave it at that.
I'd just like to make a comment regarding the water meters. we're all aware that the original intention was not to charge for water. But also the point was made quite clearly at a meeting I was at that this council can only make commitments on behalf of this council. And in 2 years' time, we may have a whole lot of new elected representatives who have a different approach. So the people are concerned about the fact that they will probably be charged for water. And I think it's realistic in terms of an ultimate outcome at some stage in the future. Personally, I don't particularly see a problem of charging people for water as long as they have a sensible household allowance that they don't have to pay for. There's nothing wrong with charging the guys who want to wash their boat down every single time they bring it out of the water. They bring it out today and they completely wash it down and then pop it in the tide again tomorrow. And it's a fiberglass boat that doesn't suffer too seriously, covered in salt for relatively short term. So people who want to waste water definitely should be paying. I have no question, no dispute about that. But I think to say that there won't be charges for water is unrealistic in the long term. I'm sure there will be charges for water in the longer term.
No, Ken, what I said was that it wasn't the intention, and you're right, it wasn't the intention of council to put those meters in to start charging for water.
But yes, I acknowledge that, but what I'm talking about, the perspective from the point of view of the community at large. Yep. No matter how much you assure them that that's not the intention, they will continue to believe that it will happen.
Yeah, a lot of people say to me the same. It may not have been the intention when they put them in, but once they're in there, oh well, here's an opportunity to bloody sting the ratepayer a bit more.
Well, actually, it's interesting that you should raise that, because I think if the exercise was done, I think you'd find that some people would actually benefit hugely by having a water meter, because the water meter is pretty much the ultimate in terms of user pays. So what Ken was saying was quite right, was that those people who want to perhaps abuse the use of water over the summer months are going to have to pay for it, and they'll pay for it through water meter charges. At the moment, you've got a blanket charge across all users, some of whom use more and some of whom use considerably less. So there is an argument for the use of meters to sort of make it a fairer distribution of costs across the users. However, that's not an argument from me at the moment to introduce water meter charging. I'm just talking about the principle of the user pays and those that use it pay for it. So anyway, that's just my thoughts. Yep.
Mr. Chair, could I just make a couple of comments?
Yes, please, Andrew.
Yeah, so just through you, I probably just to capture what Kit was saying, water is paid for now. No one's getting it for free. It's just that water charge is, I suppose, lost in the small print on your rates invoice. The other issue is that councils have a resource consent to take water. One of the requirements in Ōtorohanga was that we had to show that we were undertaking water management activities to enable us to renew our water consent from the regional council to take water. And I think one of the advantages, although it wasn't stated, is that we are probably just ahead of the game here in Kāwhia by installing those meters before it was actually put upon us as a requisition from the regional council. And I suppose the final point I want to make is that, as we've already shown with just a small time of the rollout, we've made considerable savings on water, and you can't manage your water properly unless you know where it's going. And I'm afraid that, like it or not, water metering at the end of the chain is essential for us to record how much water is dispersed or provided to households and how much we produce at the plant, so that we can get a handle on the efficiency of our own infrastructure.
Okay, it would be a hard one to work out charging, like Ken says, if everyone's allocated a sort of reasonable amount, but that's, does one person live in that house, or is it a family of 8 or something, or 6 or something? It's going to be awkward to differentiate, isn't it? And have, what, do you just bill everybody the same, or okay, you can check your meters and all that, but as I say, because you've got a whole family living in the house compared to other houses where there's only one person, is there going to be a difference in allocation, which we don't know yet as such? But my point was more, I'm bringing up that with all the supply chain issues, the costs of everything going up, has the possibility to be another increase. So basically, Kit, what I'm saying is, so do we have a guarantee from the council that in this 10-year plan, they're not going to start charging us for metered water? There's no guarantee in there for that, is there?
Well, at this stage, I certainly can't give you a guarantee on that, but my understanding, Dave, is that there's no intention to use those water meters other than to identify leaks. So, but as Ken quite rightly pointed out, I can't speak for successive councils. All I'm telling you is what the current council's position is on it. And I guess post October elections, there's an opportunity then for the board then to lobby the incoming council to make sure that they get what they want. Yeah. And coming back to the charging, there's all sorts of different ways in which that can be achieved. Like Ken says, you could have a standard fee across all properties of say $50, and then you pay a water meter charge on top of that. I'm just picking $50 out of the year. It could be more, it could be less, or it mightn't be anything. So there's a whole way in which you can actually do that if and when it's ever required.
Okay. Is there meters in Ōtorohanga, Andrew, please?
I didn't say again.
They've got meters installed in Ōtorohanga. They have, haven't they?
Yes, the Ōtorohanga water supply is metered. Yes.
Is that charged per household?
So I couldn't give you the exact detail of the charging structure there, but I think there is perhaps is Jared available? He could maybe speak to that. Oh, Brendan could be the one. He could probably speak to how the charging structure works for the Ōtorohanga water supply. Brendan, are you able to comment on that?
We can hear you. Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So, I may be wrong, but if it's happening at Ōtorohanga, it's going to happen to us here. Sort of goes without saying.
Dave, the other thing that concerned me, in case I may not have heard it right, but I think someone, I'm not too sure whether it was you, Ken, said something about that rates were going to go up by something like $50 a week. That ain't going to happen. I can tell you now that I can tell you in my case, Diane, and my situation here, on the current forecast, our rates will probably go up by about $5 to $6 a week, roughly.
Mr. Chair, I just to take the conversation back to the water with your permission, I don't think there are any easy answers to this whole puzzle of supply and demand with water. If I just take you back to summer, we were probably a hair breadth away from a water emergency in Kawhia. We can't decide if we need more storage unless we know where the water's going. We don't know where the water's going unless we meter. So you've got the circle that you have to put these steps and balances along the way so that you can address the next part of the problem. I just don't think there are any non-cost solutions. Somewhere along the chain of water supply and demand, decisions have to be made and money has to be spent. So I really can't offer you any solutions apart from that.
Yeah, so it's for me, thank you, Andrew, but for me it was just was just something I wanted to chuck out there for discussion. Just as I say, everything is going up, up, up. Cost-wise, people have, the money's not going as far as it used to. I believe this is around the whole world. It's starting to affect everybody, And with these, like on TV3 News this morning, they're talking about what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. That it's going to lead to worldwide food shortages. So if we're going to be having food shortages, the last thing people are going to be wanting is to be paying extra things out. That really, do we really need these sort of things to be, these extra costs? And
can I just speak
through
you, the chair?
Yeah. Oh, Brendan. Yes. Thank you, Brendan.
Jared.
Oh, Jared. Sorry.
Just through you, the chair. Just to the effectiveness of these meters finding leaks. The major leak we found was our springs would have been running for 2 hours a day, just supplying that leak. So we were losing 2 hours of our incoming water just to supply that leak. That's how major it was. Without water meters, that keeps going. That only gets worse. And because of a lot of the land in Kāwhia, the way the sand basin, the water just disappears. You just do not see it. So I know it's frightening for some of the people out there, but as a tool for us, it's huge. And finding just that one leak is huge without the other 8 or so minor ones on top of it. So I know it is scary, but it is a very useful tool for us.
All right, thank you, Jared. And it's works great already with finding that big leak, and I'd heard about that, and I didn't realise there was 9 that they'd found though. That's good.
Yeah, they're still looking actually, Dave. There's there's about 30 or 40 properties, I understand, talking to Mark Lewis, that have still not been connected to water meters simply because they can't find the Tobies. And there are some instances too of water supplies or coming in from different directions and feeding, like a house on Rosamond Terrace, for example, is feeding a house down on Tainui Street, and those sorts of funny things that need to be sort of sorted out. But
I had Hugh McGilvery turn up to see me yesterday, saying that he tried to tell him they put a meter on his place, on the Toby that feeds his house, but he says it feeds 3 other properties from that Toby.
Yeah.
And he tried to tell them, they just laughed at him and just put it in there and says, well, that's not their concern.
Right. Well, that's interesting, and I think probably he needs to get in touch with Mark and just let him know about that, so that Mark can take the appropriate action. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. So just my main concern was, the 10-year plan when it was formulated, there was no supply chain issues, no world issues with different things going on at the time when we formulated, and the projected spend was originally, I thought, was somewhere around the $12 million mark from the initial documentation. I'm thinking, is it a wise move at this time to be spending that amount of money? I suppose the majority of it would be on the sewage system, which, okay, even though some people might say we need the sewage system, I think in this economic sort of situation, is it really a tenable sort of thing to be after,
Yeah. Look, I agree with you, Dave. All I can say is that what they're doing at the moment with the water testing and so on, they're just trying to build a case, if you like, for potentially or possible future system out here. But that's likely to happen when all these new entities come into place. I can't see that it's going to impact too much directly on the ratepayers here in the immediate future. And as pointed out, has been pointed out on a number of occasions, it's not going to happen anyway unless there's substantial funding from government or the new entity to support a proposal like that. So
we all know the government's running out of money.
Yeah, now, well, they seem to be able to keep printing it, Dave. That's the concern, isn't it?
You still pay from somewhere.
And I guess, and you're worried about the ratepayers, next year. Think about the taxpayers in the next 10 or 15 or 20 years. They're going to have to pay for all the money that Labor spent in the last 2 or 3 years. Work that one out.
Yeah,
Someone's
I'm
going to have to pay for it.
I'm fully aware of all that. And yeah, just these changing times that will have been. So yeah, my thing is for our members, and I'll get hold of Hinga at some stage and talk to her. I still have to get hold of Alan Murder and have a discussion with him and get everybody down there before our next meeting and check with what he wants. But
well, can you leave that one with Mark Lewis, because Mark's going to get in touch with you, and he's going to coordinate a get together with the board members and himself and other staff members and have an on-site meeting with Alan. So he's got that underway, Dave. So he'll be in touch.
Prima. All right. Now, the only other thing I wanted to touch on was from the last meeting, which I didn't think, but you were talking about the old Te Papa Kāwhia tree down there and saying about the cost of fixing it up. Now, it's my understanding that tree is actually owned by the Kingitanga. And that this came about a few years back when it was two things happened. I think a young fella playing around down there ended up catching the tree on fire.
Yep.
And I don't know if you remember that, or about that.
Yeah,
and then the other one was a big storm came along, broke some branches off. And it was a funny thing that happened because two of the young fellas that were down there cleaning up with Doc, one got killed while he was out here on a motorbike crash, and the other one got maimed quite badly with a chainsaw on a job. And it was sort of put the heebie-jeebies up a few of the people there. So they decided to check into it and work it all out. And with Doc and different things, they decided that the Queen owned the tree. So any of the wood that came off there that was chopped because Doc was doing whatever with it was to go back to her, and she would allocate it out from there. So to me, if that's the case, then surely the Kingitanga should be putting something in, if not all of it, to remedy this.
I think, Dave, with respect, the reason that we are front-footing this is if that limb collapses, it'll fall across one of our roads and cut off access for two houses, I think, possibly. And so we have a duty as a roading authority to keep that thoroughfare open. And I think the sentiment was that it was better to front foot it and put those supports in place and then investigate the structure. So that's been the direction and why we've arrived at the position we're at. And I think at the moment we've got the discussion around the cost sharing for that final solution. So yeah.
Yes, my point there, Suzette, I understand that, but if there's already been communications with Tainui, I understand already been communication with Tainui about it and what's to do and this and that. Well, then they have to step up and say, well, their hierarchy actually have been credited with owning it. So come on, front up. Why should the ratepayers be paying for it when they've got ownership?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Dave. Hinga was going to actually raise it with the Maori King through Waikato Tainui. But when I was speaking to her today, she said that she hadn't received the engineer's reports and the costings, which I thought had been sent to her. In fact, I'm sure that I sent it to her, but she also said that her district council email address isn't working and that we need to send all of her emails through her Tainui email address. So that possibly could be the reason why she hasn't received that. So I'll make sure that she gets that information today, because I'm sure that I may have copied it into her anyway. So I'll make sure that it gets sent to her today. So she was only really waiting for that before she made the approach to the King through Waikato Tainui.
It's just my opinion that, you know, if Tainui own it or Kingitanga own it, then the ratepayers shouldn't really be footing too much of the bill, if any. You know, they've claimed ownership. It's been established. I've checked all this out with Alan Rube before about when it happened and what the go was. And
I think you've got to take recognition of what Andrew has just said, though, that there are some responsibilities on the council to make sure that some things don't happen, and that includes the branch obviously falling down. And so so look, there was also some information that I've managed to glean from Heritage New Zealand, and there may be potentially some funding for this through them, which I'm not too sure whether it's been fully explored yet, but I'm hoping that it has or will be. So there's possibly 3 avenues there, through heritage, through Waikato Tainui and the King, and maybe something from council, who knows. But anyway, it's on the table, Dave, so we've just got to wait for that to happen now.
Okay, and even in response to you, Andrew, my feeling is, again, if the branch comes off, because really, from what I think, the owners haven't actioned anything. If the branch comes off, well, then don't we just drag it off the road onto the side and tell them to come and pick it up?
Yeah.
I know it's a bit sort of blunt, but that's that's what they end up basically doing the last time when they chop those branches, those burnt branches or dead branches off when something happened. They end up just ringing up, and the Kingitangi representatives came and picked it up and took it away for their carvings or whatever.
Yeah, I think there need to be quite a lot of consultation if that was to happen before you took any action at all.
No, I was saying if it did come down and drop on the road, you'd want it moved out of the way and sort of pretty much straight away, won't you?
Yeah, it would still be a sensitive issue, which I think you'd need to be careful who you talk to about that. But I take your point. Yep. So yeah, I think we just got to let that one lie for a minute and just see how we go with the funding side of things, Dave. Yeah. Yeah.
I just wasn't sure if everyone realised that was the story, that the Queen had been given ownership by Doc, the sort of thing, and that would have been back in the 80s, early 80s, I think. When I know the young fellow who caught it on fire, and those 2 young fellows died when that freaked a lot of people out. But anyway, that's enough. So I haven't got really anything else to discuss, except that I'd like our elected members here just to think about the long-term plan and how it's financial impacts it may have on other people, that we could perhaps mitigate a bit here, because I firmly believe that we're heading to hard times, really hard times.
Dave, Council's got a pretty tight time frame now, because they're looking to adopt the annual plan in June. Obviously, it's operative from the 1st of July. So if the board's of a mind to do something, it's going to have to do it pretty quickly. And you may have to do that by calling even calling a special meeting or something too. If you've got some things that you want to recommend back to the council, what I'm saying is that needs to happen sooner rather than later. Yep.
Okay, well, I just sort of want to give everyone, our members, our elected members, just my opinion of it, and give them a chance to go away and think about it, and then I'll try and contact them in the next week or so and sort of see what their feelings are and whatever. I talk to some people, and when you tell them that, economists are talking about recessions and depressions possibly, they go, "Oh God, you're a conspiracy theorist." I go, no, I'm not really.
My understanding is that the purpose of the plan was to enable the council to carry out works that could be required. If it's not in the plans, it can't be done in general terms. But as I understand it, the plan is not a mandatory document that says this is in the 3-year plan, therefore over 3 years all of this must be done. Am I right, Kit?
Yeah, it's a I know what you're saying, but you need to recognise too that this time round, that long-term plan, there was quite an extensive consultation process on that. I think it went for almost 18 months, and there was a heap of public meetings.
Out here in Kawhia was a joke. Most meetings were Thursday on a 10 to 2 at the Rusty Snapper. What about the people who are at work? What about all the batch owners that didn't come out for the weekend? And I've had a lot of these batch owners complaining to me that how come they weren't given opportunities or more informed. We had one Saturday morning consultation meeting and one nighttime one at the pub on a Thursday night. Where's the actual informed consultation with all the batch owners? I've got them moaning to me about it now, about the water meters and this and that. Basically, the information put out there was generally on social media. There was an odd ad in the local papers, but a lot of our batch owners, which is 75% of our town, they didn't really get a say in what was going on there, I feel, or they weren't. I suggested to the council, can we leave it open for one more week and we can have a public meeting about it in the long weekend, in the Queen's birthday weekend? And oh no, we're shutting it down the week before. Oh, hang on. When do we get these people get a chance to have an input, a voice?
Yep.
And basically, I believe they didn't.
Yeah, I know you've raised this previously, Dave, and it's a valid concern. Council, I think, well, I believe they have acknowledged and taken those concerns on board. Obviously, it's too late for this particular round, but I think it'll definitely be done differently next time. And we'll just have to make sure that it is done differently next time. So one of the things that was requested was why we couldn't perhaps circulate some information using the addresses that we had on the rating base. And we were told at the time that we couldn't do that. But I found out subsequent to that there was probably no reason why we couldn't do that. So there were just little things like that which perhaps sort of stymied the process of it. But yeah, look, hey, I acknowledge what you're saying, and I agree with you. It could have been done better, and we'll just have to make sure that next time round it is done better. So, yep.
The point I was attempting to make, and Kit, you made the point that the consultation process was about what the community felt they wanted. At the time of the consultation, we didn't have COVID and we didn't have the after effects of COVID. I think if you did the same thing again now, you would find a lot of the community saying, let's wait a little longer.
Yeah.
And that was the point I was trying to make. The council is not committed to spend the money if there's a good reason not to.
Yeah, Ken, look, I don't disagree with what you're saying, and in fact, I think I've said already that things have changed so much in the last 2 years. We're living in a different world, and Dave's mentioned that as well. I just feel that though, to start wanting changes now to a plan which is going up for adoption in just over a month is potentially a big ask. So if you're going to be wanting council to go back and have a look at how it relates specifically to Kawhia, then you need to do that pretty quickly if you've got any chance at all. In fact, it may even be too late now. I'd need to take some advice on that. But so look, Ken, I'm not disagreeing with you, and Dave. I understand exactly where you're coming from, and those are exactly the same points that I made when I pleaded Kawhia's case for the rates in workshops that we had the last month or two. So they're not unfamiliar with.
My point is that you don't have to change the plan in terms of the detail of the actual plan, but you can change the implementation process.
Yep.
It doesn't require a change to the plan to say, well, the circumstances are such that this section of the plan can be delayed 1 year, 2 years, whatever.
Yep.
And that was the point I was trying to make. The council doesn't have to levy rates to complete the 3-year term exactly as it is.
No, it's a good point. And again, I think probably you just need to give us some direction as to what it is that you would like to see put on the burner for a year or two. So have that discussion, and I'm happy to be involved and help where I can, Dave, if that's of use to you. Yeah, the ball's back in your court really at this stage.
All right. Well, for me, the main one I'd like to see is a bit of a stop on the sewage investigation, because that's the biggest spend that I am aware of or feel. Especially when we could spend up to $12 million investigating it, and the council or the government won't have the money to give to us. That's what is that? That's a waste of money, isn't it? Really, or putting people under pressure for no actual outcome. That your no outcome is for sure. No positive, definite outcome. I mean,
you need to get your figures right, Dave. There's no way that council's going to spend $12 million investigating whether we need a sewage span out here.
Was that in the town tidy up thing or whatever? Wasn't it? That was the figures that were quoted in the mailers, and that they came out with it. They wanted to spend $12 million out in Kāwhia in the next 3 years or something.
Look, I'd need to go back.
Am I right there, Brendan?
I'd need to go back and have a look just to see what you're referring to there. But certainly in terms of the wastewater thing, there's just no way they're going to spend $12 million on investigation. That would never have been passed in the first place. So, yeah.
Okay. So I couldn't check it out. Probably I was going to go through my old emails, but when I changed my email provider, it deleted all my old emails, and so that just mucked me right up there.
Yeah.
But anyway, I know that's been a good, healthy discussion, guys. I think if everyone's all done, is that everyone's okay with that?
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you.
If there's anything I can help with, Dave, just please feel free to ask, will you? Because I'm a little bit closer to the action perhaps than you guys, and there may be some knowledge I can share, which I haven't been able to at this stage. So I'm happy to help where I can. Yeah.
Yes, I've got to admit I haven't been as onto as I could be or should have been through the whole process. I've just been sort of obsessed with trying to get in my house, and just the amount of work to do it, to get it cleaned up, has just been phenomenal, really.
Yeah. Just be aware too that you know, you've been talking about Kawhia in isolation here, but Aotea, Jeff might even have some comments on this. Aotea's got its own issues out there with the seawall, and potentially the costs involved with that. So it's a problem it's not isolated to Kāwhia. That's what I'm trying to say. There are problems all around. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, if everybody's all happy with that, it's 1:52, and I'll call our meeting to a close.